Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. While being one of the later games made for the SNES, released on August 5th, 1995 in Japan, it is still the highest selling Yoshi game of all time, with 4.12 million units sold. Produced by none other than Shigeru Miyamoto, the team had 5 years of experience to learn the ins and outs of the SNES and make the game the best it could be. One advantage Yoshi's Island had over the previous Mario side-scrollers was the inclusion of the Super FX2 chip. The chip was used to include 3D drawbridges falling into the foreground and sprites that are able to dynamically rotate and change size. The game has had multiple sequels and spin-offs, but none of them could touch the charm of the original. But first of all, what does Warpless even mean? It is a rather unconventional way of naming a category, so let's go through it quickly. 100% means collecting every flower, every red coin, and having 30 stars at the end of each level to unlock the 6 bonus levels and play through them. In Warpless, you actually want to avoid these collectibles as much as possible. If you collect a flower, at the end of the level, there will be a chance for the roulette cursor to end up on one of them. If that happens, you have to play a bonus game, which is quite slow and should definitely be avoided. The red coins are not too bad. There are 20 in each level, with some of them being unavoidable. But this is where the scoreboard at the end of the level comes in. For every first collectible you collect in a level, you will lose 30 frames on the scoreboard, because it will count them up. For each additional collectible after that, you will lose 1 frame each. While this is not a huge time loss for each level individually, over the course of a run as long as Warpless, it's going to add up. So you want to avoid these collectibles as much as possible. So the Warpless and 100% category separation makes sense, but what about the Warps category? While there is no intentional way to skip large chunks of a level, in 2005 a glitch called the 1-1 warp was found. I won't go into too much detail about this glitch, but it will let you warp back to 1-1 and lets you skip big chunks of some levels. For example, it will let you skip the 1-4, 2-4 and 5-4 boss fights, and a few more. The 1-1 warp was game-breaking enough that a decision was made by the community to split these categories. This made Warpless essentially the no major glitches category of the game. And up to this day, it is still the most popular category, with over 200 submitted runs on speedrun.com. There are a few more categories like the any percent ones, where you use glitches like arbitrary code execution, null egg and save corruption, which are all banned in Warpless. These will let you skip even bigger chunks of the game, but those will be covered in a future video. The game is split into 6 worlds, with 8 levels each, with no way to skip over any of them, unlike in most previous Mario games. So a couple of gamers took it upon themselves to find the best way to get through these 48 levels as quickly as possible. Like most old games from the 90s, the journey of speedrunning Yoshi's Island began on Speed Demo's archive. The early days of the game had one familiar name: Trihex. Yoshi's Island is a long game, so most people didn't even think about running the game in a single sitting. Sadly, some of the history has been lost, so we will go through what we know today. Going through SDA forum threads, we can see that Trihex was slowly working his way through each world, slowly finding more and more strategies and faster ways to beat every world. So on February 5th, 2005, that is exactly what he did. With a time of 1:59:15, this is the first single segment run of the game that was recorded and got uploaded. So let's talk about this run a little bit. First of all, this run was performed on the NTSC-U version of the game. Most of the runs these days are performed on the NTSC-J version. The Japanese version of the game saves a little bit of time due to faster text boxes, but for such an unoptimized run, those few seconds didn't really matter. While most of the strategies are primitive to what we see these days, you can tell that Trihex has put a lot of time and effort into each level, finding small skips everywhere. For example, we can see that he already skips the bean in 1-1, using an extended flutter bouncing off of a shy guy. What is an extended flutter, you may ask? When bouncing off of most enemies, you gain a lot of height. With a little bit of brain power, you can craft this into an advantage to skip over some walls where you weren't supposed to. Here in the level 2-2, we see another example of utilizing an extended flutter. You can use these two shy guys to flutter over the wall, skipping a Baby Mario section where you usually have to run all the way around. Here in the last room of 2-6, we also see a small skip. You can jump off of this message block in order to skip this Kart transformation. It doesn't save that much time, but just shows that Trihex really went through every level to see what he could skip with the limited amount of resources and knowledge in the early days of speedrunning. In level 2-8, we can see that he chains a lot of flutters back to back in order to skip the slow green platform to get over to the other side. These flutters are technically not too hard, but if you don't do them in a 3-frame window, you will slowly lose height and eventually not be able to reach the other end. Or you will miss an input completely and fall into the lava. Something I haven't really talked about yet are the mid-rings. You want to avoid these as much as possible. They will give you an extra 10 stars and will freeze the game for a little while. Some of them are unavoidable, but if you can, you will always want to skip them. Another extended flutter abuse is in this section of 3-6, skipping having to go over and activating the cloud for the staircase. With a really high bounce here in 3-7, Trihex skips having to stomp the stake all the way down and having to go around. And of course, probably the best known Easter egg of this game. Naval Piranha is the slowest boss fight in this game. With a well-aimed egg shot before you trigger Kamek, you can actually shoot the boss and it will end the fight before it even starts. In 4-3, we see another extended flutter up to the foam. Trihex then waits on the foam so that he doesn't have to ride the balloons as much, because landing on them slows them down. Yet another flutter in the second door of 4-4, skipping having to use the cookie, which would be a lot slower. We will see a lot more of these throughout the run, and it just shows Trihex's ingenuity, being one of the only runners developing strats for the game. 5-2 features another very long section at the end, where you usually have to ride a bunch of ski lifts from right to left and left to right in order to reach the final platform. But with a few precise jumps and extended flutters off of the bumpties, Trihex manages to skip all of these ski lifts. Here we can see how Trihex skips the last Baby Mario star in 6-2, because collecting that would result in having to wait a few seconds until it runs out before you can touch the goal ring. By abusing an extended flutter, you can also run on top of this 6-4 section, so you don't have to deal with all of these moving platforms. And a few more flutters in a row to skip this slow pinwheel section. The final level, 6-8. This level is quite straightforward. A short helicopter section where you would want to avoid getting hit, and a slow Kamek auto-scroller right before the boss fight. But the important part, the spinning doors. There are 4 doors. Each door contains a different room right before the auto-scroller. Getting the right door is very important for a fast 6-8. Door number 1 is the second fastest of them all. It's a somewhat short room with a few ball and chains and spinning poles which are slow to get through. Door number 2 is a long section with a few rooms and another slow-ish salvo refight that you have to kill for a key. Door number 3 is a very, very slow auto-scroller you definitely want to avoid. Door number 4 is the door you want. It's very linear and more importantly a very short room with a few moving platforms and gusties. Here Trihex makes sure that he definitely gets door 4, which he ultimately does. The final fight, Baby Bowser. This fight can be tricky to master and even experienced runners struggle with it sometimes. First of all, you need to wait for the big eggs to spawn from the left and right. You need to grab these eggs and shoot them at Bowser. The perspective is a little deceiving and it's hard to know where exactly you have to aim in order to hit him. Bowser needs 7 hits to be defeated. Trihex missed a few shots and it took him 12 eggs to defeat Bowser. So that was a rundown of the first single segment Warpless run by Trihex. We can see a lot of ingenuity with a bunch of extended flutters to skip over sections, but also a lot of sloppy sections, getting hit a bunch of times, falling off, and also 2 deaths. So as good as this run was for its time, it was by no means unbeatable. But who would end up being the one, and how long would it take them? Like you can imagine, back in the days the competition for world records was not as fierce as it is now, and Trihex's solid sub 2 hour run was definitely hard to beat with the limited knowledge of the time. So Trihex's time stood for a long time. A very long time. For how long, you ask? 5 years, 2 months and 26 days. Yes, you heard that right. It took someone over 5 years to beat the beast of the run that Trihex set back in 2005. The runner's name was Kufuro. We don't know much about them, but what we do know is that they were a speedrunner streaming on Nico Video. Looking at their Nico Video profile, we can see that they ran Yoshi's Island Warpless and 100%, Super Mario 64, and were planning on doing more speedruns on the SNES, N64 and PlayStation. Sadly, the video for the run that beat Trihex's 1:59:15 is gone, because Kufuro deleted their Nico Video profile. But if we look at the archives, we can see that they mentioned a 1:58:59 from December 28, 2010, beating Trihex by just 16 seconds. It took someone 5 years to improve the world record by 16 seconds. That just shows how ahead of his time Trihex was back in 2005. The next world record was also set by Kufuro at 1:52:10 on July 18th, 2011, but no video can be found for this run either. We can assume that Kufuro, or maybe even someone else, has held the world record in that time frame, but due to minimal efforts to archive videos back in the days, we can't really be sure. But the next world record we can actually watch, and we can see what kind of improvements have emerged over the past 5 years. The year is 2011. Twitch is starting to become more popular. A lot of people are starting to stream their attempts, just to show them off, or talk with friends during their runs, make them less tedious. On August 21st, 2011, a microbiologist from the US is streaming his attempts. His name? Carl Sagan42.
Oh my god, Trihex would just like have my babies if you just saw that. I need to highlight that.
His time? A 1:51:44. These days, you may know Carl as a popular Super Mario Maker 2 streamer, but in his early days, he helped shape the Yoshi's Island speedrunning community. So what happened in the past 5 years? Right off the bat, we can already see that Carl has a way cleaner movement. While it is nice to find huge skips that save several minutes in a run, in Yoshi's Island, clean movement is key. For example, running on slopes, swallowing or tonguing enemies while on the ground, and even fluttering slows you down a lot. So while it is nice to be able to save several minutes with a big skip, without clean movement, you will not be able to compete for the world record. And that kind of movement doesn't come overnight. It is the result of playing the game for multiple years. So let's have a look at a few things that helped bring down the world record by over 8 minutes. Right in the first level, 1-1, we can see that Carl is doing a faster version of the bean skip. In 1-2, for the first time ever, we can see a skip for the second room. The way that Carl does it is quite hard. You need to bounce off of this shy guy and then do a frame-perfect jump off of the pole in order to keep your extended flutter. These days, runners go for a different strat, which involves spitting a daisy against this wall. It can be really frustrating to perform, because it is frame and sub-pixel perfect, resulting in a huge reset point for top level runs if you don't get it in the first few attempts. This trick saves around 25 seconds. In 1-6, we can see a little skip that Trihex also went for in his 1:59, but sadly missed. In the second to last room, if you spit a lantern guy onto this platform and do an extended flutter off of him, you can skip shooting the cloud for the bean, saving a few seconds. In level 2-4, we can see another skip for the first time. A gate hack, to skip shooting the cloud, get a staircase and having to run all the way up and around. A gate hack is performed by shooting an egg upwards, while you still have some speed, so the egg dies and opens the gate from the other side. Another new trick can be seen in 2-7. If you swallow a big shy guy and shoot the big egg you get from it, all the enemies currently on screen will turn into stars. But these stars don't despawn when they are off screen. They are loaded in the memory until they disappear after a few seconds. By having a lot of enemies on screen and then shooting the big egg, you can take up all available sprite slots. so the cannons don't spawn and you don't have to pound the stake and go around. This is a pipe glitch. A pipe glitch can be performed on pretty much every pipe, and if you do it correctly, you will skip the animation where Yoshi goes down a pipe and save 30 frames. However, here the trick works a little differently. As we see in Trihex's run, he goes all the way around to reach the upper pipe to continue to the next room. But if you perform a pipe glitch here, it will send you to that pipe instantly, saving a few seconds if you get it on your first try. Karl also didn't die at the end of 3-2, saving him a huge amount of time over Trihex. The froggy fight is a little tricky. Trihex probably didn't really know how it worked, so he just shot his eggs wherever, having to wait for the next egg anyway. But Karl knew better. The distance that the egg is from the uvula and its velocity on the frame of impact determines how much damage is done. So, if you do it correctly, you can beat Froggy with just 5 eggs. Even though it took Karl 7 eggs instead of the optimal 5, it was still significantly faster than Trihex's 10 egg shot fight. In 3-8, we can see a few small tricks that help Karl save time. If you shoot your egg while the big ghost is still off screen, and then start running so your egg flies with you, your egg can hit the ghost right as it spawns, so you don't have to shoot it a few times when it's big. That also means that he has a few more eggs for the part after that. Being able to shoot the piranha plant faster, and also abusing a tight window after shooting at the second green piranha where you can just run through it without getting hit. That also means that he doesn't have to eat the seeds at the end of the room with a quick kill on Naval Piranha. In 4-5, Karl abuses another extended flutter on top of the one that Trihex did in his run, skipping having to go all the way around. Yet another gate hack in 4-7, so he doesn't have to wait until the platform is in the right position so he can continue without having to wait. In 5-1, Karl opts for killing the Lakitu and using his cloud to fly all the way up. That saves a good amount of time, because you don't have to deal with all the terrain and just skip right over it. While still far from an optimal sluggy fight, Karl's fight is way faster than Trihex's, aiming better at the heart and killing it way faster. In 5-7, we can see another example of being able to run through the piranha plant when shooting it, so you don't have to shoot it 3 times in order to continue. A few better aimed eggs also help Karl get a faster tap-tap kill than Trihex. And just like previously, the final Bowser fight is still a little rough. That shows just how difficult it is to master this fight. It also took Karl 12 eggs to defeat Bowser, to finish his run with a solid 151-44. So while there were a few minor skips found in the past years that helped Karl save a little bit of time here and there, most of the time save was just due to having better and cleaner movement, which developed naturally over the past few years. And just like that, the modern day Yoshi's Island speedrun as we know it today was born. Who would be able to master its tricky movement to bring down the time even further? While it may have taken several years to beat Trihex's 159, due to live streaming becoming more popular, getting more and more people interested in speedrunning in general, it didn't take long to shave off even more time. And this time, it's a familiar face. It's the same person that brought down Trihex just 1 year prior. On November 30th, 2011, Ukyo came back one final time to beat Karl and brought the world record down to a 151.11. But just like before, there's sadly no video of it. We can assume that the 33-second time save came from cleaner movement overall, developing naturally. But Japan was not done yet. With a new world record by just 1 second, another runner by the name of Maruo got a time of 151.10 on April 28, 2012. But what kind of tricks did Maruo show in his run? Most important of all, cleaner movement again. This can be said for pretty much every run. But there's also a few new things that help. For the first time ever, we can see a little skip performed in 4-8. Like mentioned earlier, if you go through a mid-ring, the game freezes for a little bit while adding 10 stars to your health. But this room is set up in a way that you can skip it. By shooting your egg exactly so it hits the cloud when it's at just the edge of the screen, it overrides the mid-ring and puts the game in a weird state where it can't be paused. This allows you to run through the mid-ring and collect the stars without ever being slowed down. Sadly, he got a somewhat quick death in level 5-5, getting hit by a shy guy twice in a row. Now this is where we see a big skip in 6-4, which saves a significant amount of time. If you paid attention to the previous world records, they went into an extra room to defeat a smaller version of the Salvo boss in order to get a key and unlock the pipe to be able to go up. But, as we learned at the beginning of the video, extended flutters can help you reach places that you weren't supposed to. How is that helpful? Exactly here. By bouncing off of this ghost shy guy and getting an extended flutter, you can get all the way over this wall, skipping the Salvo fight and the key. Previously, there was not much you could do for the final room of 6-5. It's just another auto-scroller like the first room, but it doesn't actually start until you cross this point. With how the game works, the screen only registers Yoshi landing and scrolling the screen up if you touch the ground for more than one frame. So by lining yourself up and doing a frame-perfect jump on this upper ledge, the screen does not scroll up, thus not spawning the sprite that triggers the auto-scroller. That means, if you don't land too early, you are free to run to the end without having to wait for the screen. 6-6, a usually really long maze all the way around, grab the key and run all the way back. But what if I told you that there was a better way? Something that saves you a lot of time. All you need is to bring this rock down here, set it in front of the door and jump from down below into the rock to get pushed forward, being able to tongue the key through the wall. And the mazes don't end here. Here's the last big time save for Maruo's run. The second room of this level is an even longer maze, having to activate this cloud in order to be able to get to the store. But, as we've come to learn, extended flutters are our friend. You just have to shoot this part of the foam to be able to land there, jump off of the shy guy, land on it, and, with another frame-perfect flutter, can get into the door without having to deal with a long and annoying maze. These two skips alone probably already saved close to a minute over the previous run. And with just 9 eggs, Maruo gets an even cleaner Bowser fight than before. But Carl was not done. For his final world record in the Warpless category, he would come back on June 18th, 2012 to beat Maruo's world record by over 2 minutes, with a final time of 1:49.07. How did he beat Maruo's run that included so many new skips that saved a lot of time? You guessed it, cleaner movement. Carl did not include any new tricks. He did exactly all the tricks that Maruo did in his 151, but was able to beat the game in under 1 hour and 50 minutes. That just shows how much movement matters in this game. All the small mistakes add up and make you lose time, even though individually they do not seem like much. But if you practice enough, start to jump over every slope possible, you are able to save more time than with most of the skips previously found. Okay, now let's talk about somebody we haven't mentioned yet. Z-Wing. A very skilled speedrunner who is known for running games such as F-Zero and many more, was also a prominent Yoshi's Island speedrunner back in 2013. His most notable find was a consistent strat to skip the bonus games in a 100% category. As mentioned earlier, if you collect flowers, which you need to do in a 100% category of Yoshi's Island, the cursor at the end of the level has a chance of landing on it, so you have to do a slow bonus game. In Yoshi's Island, if you spit out an enemy while still holding forward, you will be slowed down. While this may seem counterintuitive to do in a speedrun, if you do that while running at full speed into the gold ring, the cursor will land perfectly between two flowers, thus avoiding the bonus game. Before the Z-Wing found the strat, at the end of every level you had a 50% chance of losing a bunch of time to something you couldn't really control. This doesn't really have anything to do with Warpless, but the more you know. Z-Wing of course also ran Warpless, otherwise we wouldn't mention him here. And on February 11th, 2013, Z-Wing beat Carl's world record by 27 seconds, with a 1:48.40. One new addition to this run was a new gate hack for 6-7. This one does not work like the one in 2-4, because you don't have a wall above you, so you have to get a little more creative here. If you grab this cactus enemy, spit it into the gate, let it bounce off, and spit it into the gate again, because it is moving left, it will open the gate. This way you don't have to run around, saving you a few seconds. However, This trick requires the gate to be loaded in a higher sprite slot than the enemy. If the gate is in a lower slot, it won't work. Z-Wing also gets a cleaner cannon despawn in 2.6 by having full eggs when throwing the big egg, thus having even more sprites on the screen. Other than that, there's not too much different about this run, just once again, cleaner movement. But Japan was not to be outdone just yet. Just 3 months later, yet another new world record holder pops up. This time it's Mai, and on the 3rd of May 2013, he beat Z-Wing's time by just 4 seconds, finishing his run with a 1:48.36. You remember the pipe glitch we mentioned in one of Carl's world records? Another neat little addition from Mai was a pipe glitch in 2.2. Just like the one mentioned earlier, if you perform it right here, it will send you to the next room. This doesn't save too much time, but it is nice to see all the small improvements the runners have come up with over the years. It is now mid-2013, and we see yet another new phase. Probably one of the most prominent Yoshi's Island speedrunners of the 2010s that helped push the game to its absolute limits. He is still active, and even in 2021 still holds multiple individual level world records. The runner is MT, and he is here to clean up and bring the world record closer and closer to perfection. The first time MT got a world record was in August of 2013 with a time of 1:48.14. He would set his second world record on October 7th, 2013 with a time of 1:47.33, but sadly the video for both of these runs have been lost. While previously it would usually take several months for a new world record to be set, MT was not playing around. Just 17 days later, on the 24th of October, he got another world record with a time of 1:47.01, and we would finally get a glimpse of what he was capable of. No new tricks, just optimizing movement, cleaning up previous sloppy sections, getting better and better with each run. But before we're going to analyze this run, we need to talk about this down here. Why haven't we talked about this world record yet? Because it was a cheated run. I will not mention the name of the runner, but here's what happened. In January of 2018, MT analyzed the run. The runner had a controller cam, so it was pretty easy to tell if anything was wrong. MT paid really close attention as to what was happening in the game and what the runner was pressing on the controller. As you can see here, Yoshi was moving right, left, because they missed the key. But if you pay really close attention, you can see that the runner only presses right and then left, never actually inputting the little jiggle to collect the key. So after talking to the runner, they admitted they tried to pass off a pre-recorded run as a live run, without ever mentioning it until they were called out in January of 2018. We are not entirely sure how the pre-recorded runs were created, so the runners had both of their world records retroactively rejected. A 1:47.04 in October of 2013 and a 1:46.26 in November of 2013. So back to MT's run. For the first time, we would finally see a faster Froggy fight. Like previously mentioned, when done really optimally, you can beat Froggy with just 5 eggs. In previous world record runs, the best we have seen was 7 eggs, but MT beat Froggy with just 6 eggs, putting him ahead of his personal best again. MT also went for a way harder but faster maze skip for 6.6. The skip, how we know it from previous world records, would grab this rock and roll it down in order to be able to tongue through the wall. But MT wanted to save even more time, so he went for rockless, which saves around 8 seconds. This trick is extremely precise, because you need 2 frame perfect inputs. The key can be reached without using the rock by carefully positioning Yoshi's tongue through the wall with a little bit of momentum. To get the key, run alongside the bottom and tongue, then jump 3 frames later. Hold left after jumping to adjust the way the key flies through the air. and with 11 egg shots on Bowser, MT got his low 147. But while all of this was going on, another runner was going for something people thought would be TAS only, that no one in their right mind would ever go for, until now. We are talking about Ukyo. Not much is known about them, but as Crispy puts it, Ukyo's run was one of the most influential runs of the mid-2010s. What made Ukyo's run so special? What helped them get ahead of MT? Let me introduce you to the 5-4 skip. As the wiki puts it, 5-4 skip is the hardest trick in the run. It separates the good players from the best. This trick, if done first try, will save you over a minute. And if you ever want to be able to compete at a high level, you need to be able to do this trick first try whenever you get a run to 5-4. Not doing 5-4 skip means that you will not be able to get closer than 1 minute of the world record. What is so hard about 5-4 skip? Let me show you. You remember back in 2005, Trihex went over the lava in 6-4 by chaining a few flutters back to back. It's essentially like that, but on crack. With 5-4, you're chaining 33 frame inputs almost back to back. You are allowed to lose some height, but if you lose too much, or you miss an input completely and fall, it is over and you have to try again, meaning you won't be able to save the full minute. In Ukyo's first and only world record, we see what we call half skip. If you want the full minute time save, you need to start fluttering right away, but because it is early 2014 and no one has even thought about implementing 5-4 skip in their runs, Ukyo took the safer route and only went for half skip, to save 40 seconds instead of over a minute. So on January 5th, 2014, Ukyo was the first person ever to pull off any kind of 5-4 skip in a world record run, and finished the run with a time of 1:46.11, beating MT's world record by 50 seconds. He is still number 19 on the leaderboards to this day, which is crazy for a 7-year-old run, and it shows how this one trick helps you get ahead of the competition. If you thought MT was done, you are sadly mistaken, because he was not. Ukyo just gave us a taste of what's possible with 5-4 skip. After seeing what had happened, MT and a bunch of other runners started practicing non-stop. They knew if they wanted the world record, they would need to be able to do this trick consistently. And while other runners were still practicing, MT was the one being able to pull ahead. Just 2 months later, on the 20th of March, MT was finally able to beat Ukyo's run with a final time of 1:45.56. Sadly, MT actually missed the half skip he went for, but because he was so good at all the other tricks and general movement, he was still able to clutch out a 15-second improvement over the previous world record. The next world record by MT. As you can see with his best 5-4 segment, he has a possible time save of 1 minute and 19 seconds, which would destroy the current world record. Missing another 5-4 skip, but being able to save more and more seconds with each split after that, he finished the run with a 1:45.47 on April 12, 2014, a 9-second improvement. So it was just a matter of time until MT would finally get any kind of 5-4 skip in a run. April 15, 2014. MT wanted the 5-4 skip, and not just the half skip. He wanted the full 1+ minute time save on 5-4, and on April 15, 2014, he finally got it. Even though he missed one flutter and died, MT was still able to save 50 seconds on 5-4, leading a little bit of his time save on the next few levels to improve the world record by another 18 seconds and finish with a 1:45.29. But he wasn't even done for the day. That one death on 5-4 cost him the sub 1:45, and he wanted to correct that. So on the very same day, he got this run. The first deathless, full 5-4 skip in a world record run. As you can see from this split, he already saved most of the time on his previous run, but he can still make up for it on the next few splits. Saving more and more time on each split, a 9 egg-shot Bowser fight, MT finally got the first sub 145 ever, with a final time of 144.52. It is now late 2014. The leaderboards have calmed down a little bit, because the runners were still working on the consistency of their 5-4 skip. A world record without it may be possible, but no one wanted to miss out on a 1-minute time save. 7 months have passed, with no one being able to touch MT's first try 5-4 skip run. But one person was up for the task, the Crispy 22. Over the past few months, he had been slowly getting closer and closer to MT, and on November 30, 2014, he was finally able to break through. With a new version of the 5-4 skip, where you don't have to flutter up to grab the shy guy for an extended flutter, and saving 35 more seconds on the last world, Crispy pulled ahead of MT and finished his run with a 144.26, a massive 26-second improvement. And this is where the battle for optimization began. We wouldn't have to wait long until MT struck back. With these two runners getting better and better at 5-4 skip, we would see the world record drop multiple times. 144.19 by MT on December 6, 2014, followed up by a 144.08 by Crispy on the 17th of January 2015. And for the last time where one of these two runners would hold the Warpless world record, Crispy improved the record by a massive 30 seconds, bringing down the new time to a 143.39 on May 24, 2015. So just with the help of this one trick, better and better movement, these two runners would shave off over 2 minutes over the span of just 1 year. So we're now in 2016. Not much has happened since May of 2015 with Crispy's solid run, and for the first time in 2 years, we would see a new person to hold the world record. Kolthor the Barbarian.
Tonight, world record tonight.
Falling a little bit behind at the beginning, but with a new best segment, he was finally able to pull ahead after 2.8. And this is where we see the currently most optimal Froggy fight. While previously runners shot the egg in the top right corner to hit the uvula, the egg's velocity is even higher if you throw it directly at the uvula at a 45-degree angle. Sadly, still 6 egg shots, but he was able to save even more time after Froggy, and the potential for an even faster Froggy fight was still there. Bleeding some more time in World 4, but he was able to save even more with a first try 5-4 skip. The pace after 5.8 was very solid, so he just had to keep it together in World 6. Saving 2 more seconds in World 6, Kolthor managed to clutch out his first world record with a time of 143.34 on February 7, 2016.
Yes! Yes! Yeah!
And he wouldn't be done there. With a pretty even pace and another first try 5-4 skip, he slightly pulled ahead after 6-4. But was it enough for a world record? With a solid 9 egg-shot Bowser fight, Kolthor was able to get his second world record with a time of 143.18 on September 13, 2016. But seemingly out of nowhere, someone else would dethrone Kolthor. Andy Kuma. His personal best was 38 seconds behind the world record, so it would take an incredibly solid run to shave off that much time. After World 3, he was actually behind his PB, but ahead of Kolthor's world record. So we could see that Andy's gameplay was solid, but he would need to keep this pace up in order to beat Kolthor. He did fall a bit behind after World 5, but with a first try Rockless, he saved some time over Kolthor, who had a third try Rockless in his world record run. And with an optimal 7 egg-shot Bowser fight, Andy saved a massive 41 seconds over his PB, to beat Kolthor by just 3 seconds with a 143.14 on December 7, 2016. But Kolthor wouldn't have it. He wanted his world record back, and not just by a few seconds. He wanted more. He wanted the 142.
I'm really looking forward to my week vacation. I think I need a break from this.
And on April 16, 2017, with the help of a new trick called Chicken Baxter, where you would defeat Hook Builder Koopa with a stored chicken instead of eggs, Kolthor got this run.
I think that's it! I think that's 142! That's definitely world record! Come on, 142! Come on! Come on, 142! $142! Yeah! 142! Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!
142.57. The first 142 Yoshi's Island Warpless would ever see. It is now 2017, and now is the time for real optimization. From now on, you won't see any new major tricks or skips. If you want a new world record now, you need clean gameplay. No small time losses from running on slopes or anything like that. And the next few runners are squeezing out every second they could. We won't go into too much detail for each run, because these new world records would just be about optimizing movement. So let me introduce you to someone new. Someone who has brought down a lot of world records in the any percent categories. A lot of people call him the Yoshi God, for a good reason, because his knowledge of the game is unmatched. I am talking about Poar. While these days, Poar mainly runs the any percent categories like Credits Warp and Safe Corruption, back in 2017, he wanted to bring down the Warpless world record. And that is exactly what he did on August 29, 2017, with an incredible time of 142.22. But just like before, as we've seen with MT versus Crispy, he wouldn't be without competition for long either. Calco2, a very skilled Super Mario World speedrunner from Chile, who has held world records in pretty much every no-cape category, wanted to give the sequel a try as well. He became very good very fast, just like in Super Mario World, so it was no surprise that he would be able to compete for the world record. And on October 11, 2017, he did get his first Yoshi's Island Warpless world record with a time of 142.19, beating Poar by only 3 seconds. Just 6 days later, on October 17, 2017, he improved on that with a 142.12. But Poar came back very strong just 1 day later, beating Calco by 9 seconds with a 142.03 on October 18, 2017. Poar wanted more. Just like how Kolthor broke the 142 barrier, Poar wanted to be the first person to break the 141 barrier. And with being only 4 seconds off of it, every second counted. He would get a very close run until 6-4, being only 1 second ahead of his personal best. But with a massive possible time save, the dream of the first 141 would not be dead. All he needed was a clean Bowser fight. And with how good Poar is at the game, it was no surprise that he got a solid 8 egg-shot Bowser fight. But would it be good enough for a 141? On December 29, 2017, Poar would smash the 141 barrier with a massive new world record by 13 seconds. He hit a 141.50. However, Calco also wanted a 141, so he got to work. It took him a few weeks, but as he played more and more, he also got better and better, and with his last PB he got very close, where he got a 142 flat. Just 1 second short of a 141, and just 10 seconds short of Poar. And just 2 months later, Calco set his final Warpless world record. A very even run up to 1.8, bleeding some time in World 2, but making up for it with a very clean World 3 and 4, already pulling him ahead of Poar. Messing up the sluggy fight cost him the lead, so he would need to play very well not to fall behind even more. Barely ahead of Poar after 6-4, he could not afford to lose any time in the last 4 levels. And with a massive new best segment, Calco crushed Poar's time by 11 seconds, the time of 141.39 on February 15, 2018. However, all of this would pale compared to what was about to happen next. While previously we would have multiple people compete for the world record, this next runner was way ahead of anyone else. His name? Saku GHD. A runner with top times in all of the main categories these days, started his Yoshi's Island journey in January of 2018, with his first submitted run already being a very solid 1:43.28. Improving very quickly, in February Saku was still 30 seconds behind Calco, but it wouldn't take long for him to change that. On May 19, 2018, Saku was finally able to bring down Calco, beating him by just 9 seconds with a 1:41.28. But just one world record wouldn't be enough for him. 1:41.26 on September 5, 2018. 1:41.03 on January 3, 2019. 1:40.57 on June 16, 2020, becoming the first and still to this day only person to break the 140 barrier. And last but certainly not least, a 1:40.53 that would follow soon on November 14, 2020. Over the span of 2.5 years, Saku would beat his own records 5 times, proving it in total by almost 40 seconds. While this may not seem like much, with how optimized the game is now, 40 seconds is a lot of time, and Saku's consistency would simply be unmatched. And until this day, no one is able to touch him. Saku still remains alone on the top, with no one being able to compete with him. And that is where the world record stands today. With the current world record being so strong, what is next for Warpless? If you look at Saku's sum of best, there's honestly not a lot of room for improvement. Being just 43 seconds behind your sum of best in a run that is 1 hour and 40 minutes long is no joke. That just shows Saku's skill and consistency. Right now, a 1:39 seems impossible. Not even the best runner in the world has a 1:39 sum of best, so it is unlikely that will happen anytime soon. There would have to be a new major skip in order to give enough room to be able to beat the game in under 1 hour and 40 minutes. But there is hope. There is one skip that would save enough time for the elusive 1:39. The 6-7 skip. Just like in 1-2, in this level you are able to run above the level, and here you would skip a long platform section where you are forced to wait. This trick would save a massive 42 seconds, the biggest time save with a single trick in years. But until this day, no one has dared to go for this. It's not that it's risky, but the setup you need to do wastes a lot of time, and the sniff it spit is incredibly precise, which makes it unlikely that anyone wants to go for the skip. But who knows? Just like 5-4 was thought to be TAS only, maybe this trick is next. Never underestimate speedrunners and their love for saving time, no matter how hard it is. But I guess we just have to wait and see what the future holds for Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island Warpless. Thanks for watching.